Right, welcome to this complete army video for the Thousand Suns Chaos Space Marines. Just finished completely revamping the army, obviously Magnus the Red being added in. So I've got a 2,000 points list here based on the latest points from Games Workshop, where in fact Thousand Suns seem to have gone up a fair bit in points, good number of their units. Now we're currently running on index cards, awaiting new codex, but with the army being finished and all the changes, I thought I'd produce some extra content for the Thousand Suns. Had a lot of fun changing the army around and a lot of fun using them in games as well, which you can see on the channel. Hopefully there's more battles to come as well. So for Discount 40K, maybe you're inspired to start collecting Thousand Suns. I've seen comments coming through, people saying, oh yeah, I really am interested in collecting the very unique army for sure. So check out gamingfigures.com, link for them below for Discount 40K. If your order's big enough, they'll give you extra discount on top of the usual discount that you get, and then also you can tap into free postage through gamingfigures.com as well. So, for the Thousand Suns, the first thing I'm going to say is they are an intimidating army to paint. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of intricate work on pretty much all of these units. So to help you out, I actually have 3 painting tutorials on the channel. So if you like the look of the vehicles here, the Maulerfiends, I have a painting tutorial for these on the channel for the bigger vehicles. But both for the regular Chaos Space Marines, the Rubric Marines, and the Maulerfiends, the painting process is the same. It's the same technique, but I'll show you how to paint one of the bigger options. This model I've adjusted so that he's rearing up across these rocks and a smashed up Blood Angel's Dreadnought, which is a nice contrast. Just there. I also have a painting tutorial for the Rubric Marines, which are tricky to paint, there's no doubt about it, but I'll show you some processes, not cheats, but sort of more efficient, effective ways of painting them, and I reveal that to you in the video. I think it's the best way to paint them to get the results. If you like the look of the result that you see here, if you follow the tutorial, you'll get the same results, just with the processes that are shown. And so there is work involved. You do have to put the hours in, but I'll show you some tricks where you can definitely save some time and get some great results. So massive fan of Rubric Marines. Beautiful sculpts, brilliant concept for an army, colour scheme wise. Great theme as well, the ancient Egyptian kind of themes. They really are a unique Chaos Legion. And what I usually do is try and pick an army where I'm picking the unique units for that faction. So this doesn't look like a standard Chaos Space Marine army. I'm not running Rhinos, Vindicators, Predators, and then just painting them turquoise. I wanted to go for very themed units to really get a good flavour for the Thousand Suns. The other painting tutorial is for a very tricky unit indeed. That's these, the Tzangors. So if you like the look of those, do check out that painting tutorial. They are tricky to paint for sure. Similar process, but I think a tutorial was needed. So check out that, that's live on the channel. All those tutorials are already live. You should see links for them in the content bomb links that I put out for all of the new content and current content for the Thousand Suns on the channel. So I'm planning in this video just to break down the list, to give you all the points values, enhancements, war gear options and so on. You're welcome to copy this list entirely or take elements from it. You're welcome to leave comments of suggestions to improve the list. What units would you drop? What units would you add in? And explain why. It'd be great to hear that in the comment section below. Hopefully a great resource for Thousand Suns players. And a chance to talk about the overall tactics of the army. A bit of a showcase as well. Where I don't usually get to do that in battle reports. Don't have as much time. But I mean, I have to say that the Thousand Suns sculpts are incredible. They're really nice. That's the Exalted Sorcerer set, where you can go for so many different poses in that box set. It's one of the best sets out. Look at this one. And like the wing there on his arm. Beautiful kit. Really nice. We've seen the Tzangors. You've got the Terminators as well, this real Egyptian themed unit. Again, brilliant theme. And then I'll bring in Magnus the Red here. So there he is. in all his ridiculous glory. So really, the same process was used for him. All the armour that you can see is the same process I used for painting the models, the Rubric Marines and so on, the vehicles. So there he is. The wings. Painted my base colours first. Then for the blue, I think it's Ultramarines blue. It's the contrast paints that went over the top of the blue. And then the crispness to the edge highlighting is mostly dry brush. Picking a lighter shade and then dry brushing across the tips of the wings, and then picking out the very tips of the wings to sharpen them up with an edge highlight, just to give them nice sharpness to make them stand out on the battlefield. So there he is. Same basing process as well across the army, so I think I cover that in the painting tutorials as well. That's Magnus the Red, which for years I was like, I don't like the sculpt, he's got big thighs, it's just doesn't look that great, not so keen. And then you paint him up and you see the model in 3D, not by the pictures, and you rotate him around. It's a glorious model, and it's just utterly changed this Thousand Sons army forever. So, for the Thousand Sons, overall tactics with these is quite the usual, I suppose, for 10th edition. The absolute necessity to be able to claim the middle ground effectively, to take it and hold it, to anchor down objectives, and so I have a number of units that are built to do that. The army does revolve a fair bit around Magnus, and the crucial part is to keep Magnus alive, not just to hide during the game, but to keep him alive so that he can use his firepower especially to take out units. Once that middle ground has been claimed, or as I'm claiming it, I then have the need to reinforce that line, and that's going to be the Terminators. And then I also need some free roaming units to counterattack and ambush. That's the Maulerfiends. And I also need some cheap units to hold objectives, go on the flanks and help fulfill secondaries to rake the points in, and that's going to be units such as the Tzangors and crucially the Cultists. Every unit in this list is quite active in the game and does have a specific function. And I guess it's a credit to 10th edition. For my army to do well, I have to go for a real spread of units, and so you get really nice sort of balanced looking lists. Nothing in this list is really here for show. I've picked units that I really like, but all of them have a really important role to play in actually trying to win the game. So credit to 10th edition, it's a lovely spread of units. Having said that, I'm only running about half a dozen. I'm running 7 data cards here for this entire army, so it's streamlined. Other armies are running like 12. Like for the tower, for example. So this is a limited number of units stat-wise, which is great. You really get used to the army and how it operates, which means you can, once you do that and you're remembering all the rules, you can really be efficient on the battlefield, which is another big bonus. So where to start? I think I'll go with Magnus the Red. I did say that the army sort of revolves around him. I plan to do a tactics video. For deeper tactics on some of these key units, do check that out. It's a chance to just go through in depth, to give you the full lowdown, to show you all the hints and tips and tricks, and perhaps roll up some dice as well to show you potentially how units operate on the battlefield. So Magnus then, the key is to keep him alive so that he's able to use mostly firepower each turn. With him, I've got a very solid unit. It's foolhardy though to just to throw him out there and just to presume he's going to tank everything. He won't. But if he's hidden or put where he's blindsiding most of the opponent's force and focusing his anger and his attention on one specific target, but at the same time remaining hidden away from most, the opponent's going to struggle to bring all their guns to bear, and then he can survive well enough. 16 wounds, toughness 11, 14-inch moves, able to move around very quickly, 14-inch jump over buildings, over units, forwards, to the side, backwards. It's a real good maneuverability with him for sure. He's got OC of 6, so this is one of the units that's going to be great on an objective as well. And usually you can stay in range of that objective and maneuver around to then direct his firepower from that objective. So it could be the home objective, one of the no man's land objectives. He's very, very useful for that. So we talked about the army needing to take and hold objectives. He's going to be one of the units that's going to help do that. So close combat's okay. 7 attacks, 2 hit strength, 16, AP -3 and 3 damage. He's alright, but that's not going to take out a vehicle and so on. And if the opponent survives with whatever unit it is, and it's able to start striking him back, then all of a sudden he's going to find himself in trouble. So I'd rather shoot targets Range 24, which is fine. If I'm trying to take out targets at the middle ground or I'm on the middle ground, I'm going to cover the battlefield pretty good at range 24. Gaze of Magnus, then 3d 3 attacks, it's devastating wounds, psychic attacks, 2s to hit, strength 9 -2 and 3 damage. It's dangerous enough, and you're supported by Tzeentch's Firestorm, second shooting attack with blast, psychic, range 24, d6 +3 attacks at 2s to hit, strength 5 -2 and 2 damage. I found the best combo for firepower with him is to select devastating wounds at the start of the turn, which will give all of the shooting, not just the Gaze of Magnus devastating, because everything's now running on devastating wounds. And then play a stratagem called Devastating Sorcery for 1 CP, always have that on standby. That'll give him reroll hit rolls and reroll wound rolls for that shooting attack. And now you've got exceptionally accurate 2s to hit rerolling ones. And then on top of that for your wounds, you're on devastating wounds. If you're rerolling your wounds, you're just increasing your chances, virtually doubling your chances of getting those 6s, and that's just going to bypass armor, toughness, invuln saves, and so on, and put the wounds onto the target. And so I found he's able to go toe to toe with tanks and so on, and he's able to dish out damage against them well enough. Combine that with Lord of the Planet of the Sorcerer's ability, where he gives psychic units within 6 inches +1 to hit roll, +1 to the wound roll. That's going to include himself within his own bubble. So now all of his psychic attacks, both for combat and shooting, are going to be +1 to the wound roll. Fantastic. Really, really helpful. Because strength 9, you might be on 5s to wound a lot of vehicles. So that's going to boost you up to 4s. Rerollable, fishing for 6s for devastating. You've got an ability here that's very, very dangerous indeed. Whatever he shoots at will be in trouble, whatever it is, with that combination, which is great. To keep him alive, you've got your 2-up save, 4+ invulnerable save. You also have Impossible Form, which I usually choose for Crimson King ability. One's to help him and others move quicker. The other one is for making an enemy unit have hazardous with their shooting weapons. But the other one is Impossible Form, that's -1 damage. You're going to -1 damage against him. I'm usually choosing that. So that's really going to cut the opponent's options down. You've got a command reroll to help keep him alive on the invuln save. You also have Carbal points where you can give him a reroll failed save. Keep that on standby if you're expecting damage coming through. And you can also use Destined by Fate, which is exceptionally useful as well for a CP on a Psycho model. It's whenever you fail a saving throw, you just change the damage of that attack to 0. So there's plenty of sneaky ways to bypass damage coming through against him. So there's a lot in your favour with Magnus where you are able to keep damage away and to keep him alive. So keep a couple of command points on standby and you can make him really effective for shooting and very hard to kill. So Magnus the Red is in. That's a 6-inch aura ability, so he's going to buff units. I usually make that second priority. The priority is that he's in the right position, and often that means he's not near units to buff them out. But I'd rather he be positioned correctly in order that he's able to shoot effectively and survive effectively as well. So Magnus is in, but the key is to keep him alive, keep that linchpin going. So I've now got one fast, tough, hard to kill, excellent shooting model, and so he's a real backbone for the army. Next up, we'll go with Maulerfiends next. So for those, I am not expecting too much from them. I said I'd give you some points values, and I'll leave the list in the video description below. So Magnus has gone up, he's 465 points. That is a lot of points, so massive incentive to keep him alive. If he's gunned down on turn 1, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. A real big trouble, so a key is to keep him alive. You can deep strike, I usually like to have him on the ball just to get the carbal points and that he can get active straight away. Unless you can't hide him somewhere properly, then keep him off the table. Next is the Maulerfiends. They're cheap enough. They're 140 points a time. I've got 2 of them. I was running 3, but Magnus has come in, so I've dropped one of those and it's freed up some points to help pay for Magnus. So Maulerfiends, they're okay. I think perhaps they were better in 9th edition, but they're still alright. They go OC3, 12 wounds, 3-up save, toughness 10, 10-inch move, 5-up invulnerable save. It's a fair bit of effort to get rid of them. They move quick enough, not too bad. I go for Lasher Tendrils. Magma Cutters, there's potentially more damage with them, but Lasher Tendrils just for clearing away hordes and so on if you're getting stuck in combat or you need that one extra wound to destroy a vehicle, which has happened to me in games. You've just got some kind of chance. The extra attacks from Lasher Tendrils, 6 attacks, and 3 strength, 7 -1 damage. And then Maulerfiend Fists. It's a bit swingy. You have 6 attacks, 3s to hit. If you can get those hits, because sometimes you roll up 3s to hit, you just get 3 hits or 2 hits. It's not that great. But sometimes you get 5, 6 hits come through. If you do hit those, strength 14, great. AP -2, which is okay. But the opponent can use like Armor of Contempt to try and negate that a bit. But if the damage does get through, it's D6 +1. I found if you really want to take a vehicle down, 2 Maulerfiends is quite effective. Tank shock is an option with them, 10 dice and even 5s, just to help chip away wounds. They'll be better against weakened targets. But I don't expect too much from them. The way I'm currently using them is one on the table somewhere to maneuver around and go after targets, and then I keep the other one in reserve to flank, and I can use rapid ingress to get it into position, or just use it to bolster a weaker point on the line. Even bring it in at the home objective if I find that the home objective is in a bit of trouble. Just bring the Maulerfiend in just to back things up. So they're useful assets to have. There's no way they lead the charge or at the brunt of the fight. They're more loose around the board or flanking onto the table. Again, trying to keep them alive, but they'll be gunned down quick enough. So I treat them similar to Magnus on the table. So Maulerfiends are in 140 points each. My main units for taking the brunt of the opponent's firepower and damage is the Rubric Marines and also the Terminators. They're 2 very tough unit types. So we'll go on to the Rubric Marines next. They're expensive enough. I think they are, they're 200 points for a squad of 10. I was running 1 squad. I always knew that 10 was never enough. I always wanted to get a second squad. I've always been intimidated by the amount of hours though for the painting on them, which has been the problem. But I went back to the original painting tutorial, painted them up the same, and really super glad to have them. They are perhaps the most iconic unit for the Thousand Sons. They're just classic Thousand Sons, the Rubric Marines. Brilliant sculpt by Games Workshop. So I'm so glad to have the second unit of 10, 2 squads of 10. And so I was bringing them in just because it looks better to have the 2 squads of 10. It's too weak having just the 1 squad, and then allocating my sorcerers as well, like only 1 squad of 10. And a lot of the decent characters, they can only go Rubric Marines, so I really did need them for that. It's actually turned out Rubric Marines have proved one of the most potent, versatile and useful units in the list. And again, I hope to cover that in Tactics video for more in-depth examples. So you've got standard Marines, right? 2 wounds each, 3 up save and so on. You do get a 5+ invulnerable save, which is okay. But I found the most effective in the big squads of 10, a bit of psychic attacks coming through. The Sorcerer Cannon is going to give you a bit of Dakar as well. I tried them with bolters in the first game, I think, and then immediately switched to maxing out with flamers. That's going to give you a Warp Flame Pistol on the Sorcerer for D6 auto hits, and then 8 D6 auto hits with the rest of the squad, plus the Soul Reaper Cannon, plus Warp Smite. You've got a ton of firepower at close range for them. The problem is the range 12 with the Flamers. But move 5, then range 12, or move 5, then use your Carbal points to move again, Temporal Surge. So move 5, and then shoot 12. Your stretch and your range is actually really good. And then on top of that is the versatility of the Flamer. For example, move out and then shoot with it, great. Overwatch with it, fantastic. Or if the opponent's within range and wants to get away from you, you can overwatch them before they leave. Great for cleansing objectives, burn the opponent out of an objective and then move in. And if the opponent gets close to you, just overwatch them, and they've proved to be really, really good. On top of that, you've got the Icon of Flame. Any 6s to wound is going to be an extra AP -1. Remember, you're already at -1, ignoring cover with Torrent as well. And on top of that, you have the ability of built-in reroll 1s to wound, fantastic. And if you're shooting at a target in range of an objective, which is what they're designed to do, go after objectives. You're re-rolling the wound rolls. Now you've got flamers where you're re-rolling, chewing through the wounds. And so anything they shoot at, anything at all, from the heaviest vehicle all the way through to light infantry, it's going to find itself in trouble. They're excellent for clearing out objectives, and that's perfect for 10th edition. I want to clear objectives, keep the opponent off of them, and then claim the objectives with my army. So I now have Magnus the Red is going to go after objectives usually, and 2 squads of Rubric Marines to go after objectives as well. And usually they'll go for, if you have 1, 2, 3 objectives, they'll usually go for the middle one and then one on one of the sides. So they usually fight semi side by side as the 2 units go out to claim objectives. Then Magnus might land in the middle of them to give them the buffs and bonuses and so on. But check out the battle reports. You'll see them in operation. It's quite a fixed, say standard, but the game plan's pretty well ironed out already for the Thousand Suns. But very good backbone units. There's a lot of wounds to try and get through. I then take an Exalted Sorcerer. They're 110 points each, and I put 1 with each of the Rubric Marine squads. I've now got more firepower, some psychic attacks coming through. He'll boost their invuln save from 5+ to 4+, increasing their durability, and also I'm able to restore each turn either 1 or even 2 slain models back to the squads. That's a massive boost to have. And for every model you return, it's basically 20 points being added back onto the army. So I can take some damage, lose half the squad, and then start rebuilding the squad, which is great as each turn goes by. So as you can see, it's a fair bit of points. 200 plus 110, 310 points. I really want to try and keep them alive. I know they can take some damage, and I know I can restore wounds, and I know that at short range, they're really going to cause a lot of trouble for any target that comes near them. So I've now got pretty good units for moving out, claiming objectives. The other part of the game is fulfilling secondaries, which is crucial. So I have 2 units of Tzangors. They're light infantry, but they're tougher than Cultists. They've got toughness 4 with them. There's a bit of an invuln save running with those as well. So there's some durability. With Tzangors, the other great thing is if you're camped out on an objective with Tzangors, you usually have 1 unit on the home objective. Start of each turn, roll a 4+ for each 4+ you get. It's an extra cardboard points. They can rake in a few points. So I've spent a bit of points on those. Tzangors are working out at... Now they are cheap. They're 65 points a unit, so they're not very expensive. I don't expect too much from them. Usually they're trying to avoid being shot at, avoid close combat, and just to exist on the table. So I'll usually have 1 unit on a home objective, 1 unit to go and move on to a safer objective somewhere. Perhaps working with Magnus, working with Rubric Marines to bolster them. Then I'll just go over to Cultists. So 2 squads of Cultists. Now, I'll show you these. Some people have been asking, where are these Cultists from? So these are the Tzeentch themed Cultists. They're fantastic. I'm a massive fan of these. So you'll get these from Age of Sigmar. Tzeentch Acolytes, they're called. You get a box of 20, I believe. So 1 box is done with 2 squads of 10. They're perfect. They are Tzeentch themed, so they're the perfect models to use for your Thousand Suns army. I've taken some of the weapons from the Acolytes box because they're for Age of Sigmar, like medieval sort of style. But you can also see about half the models are actually equipped with auto pistols and chainswords. Now, I've been able to do that by taking the spare auto pistols and chainswords from the Tzangors. The hands are human looking, and so just a bit of chopping at the wrists, and I've been able to stick those accessories on to make those Cultists 40k themed. So 2 squads of 10, and they're amazing sculpts. They're so good, and it just continue on that Thousand Suns kind of theme. Really happy with those. The flesh took forever to paint up, but it was well worth it. So, and you got yourself some nice themed Cultists. Don't have to go down that route. I just like trying to get the theme matched up as much as possible. Cultists have proved to be very important units. 1 unit I usually put out right in the middle, just to go for area denial and snatch an early objective. And if they die, then that's fine if they've been used to raking some points. That works quite well. The other unit I usually flank with, keep them alive, and then bring them on at any point in the game where there's an important secondary that needs to be fulfilled, which there's all sorts that need to be picked up. Behind enemy lines or getting into no man's land, there's containment, there's all sorts of different, there's sabotage, there's all sorts of different secondaries that you can use them for. So very, very useful, cheap unit that I can keep in reserve and then bring them on just as I need them. So 2 squads of 10 at 55 points each. The final units then is Terminators. I was running a big squad of 10, which was alright, and they were hard to kill. But I was quite limited with them because it was just one huge unit, and so they can only be in one place at one time. I now have split them. They used to be 2 squads of 5, and this is my deep striking tactical asset to be used in whatever way they need to be used in the game. I found that with the Terminators, they're not going to be devastating with their firepower. They're just going to grind and chip away, and they're not going to be devastating in close combat, but again, they'll grind and chip away. So I don't expect them to work miracles. But what you do have with having those in the army is a nice durable tough unit. 2 durable tough units. They are hard to shift. They're brilliant durability, toughness 5, 3 wounds each, 4+ invulnerable save. If they're being shot at by something, is it shot at or no? It's an attack. So if they're attacked in combat or shot at by something that's higher strength than their toughness, so strength 6 and above, it's -1 to the wound roll, which will help protect them a bit, keep them in and around cover, and so they're hard enough to wipe out entirely. I've used them in all sorts of different ways. You just use them as you need them during the game, keep them in reserve, bring them in turn 2, turn 3. I've used them to bolster my home objective, bolster the main battle line, grab a no man's land objective, grab the opponent's home objective, which was left empty. I've used them for all sorts of different things. So they are tough reinforcements. Wherever you need them on the battlefield, bring them in to reinforce and back you up. So if there's an intense area trying to tip a little fight on a flank in your favour, I bring a unit or 2 of the Terminators in just to try and tip things over in my favour. So they prove very, very useful indeed. And they work out at 190 points each. They're expensive enough, but you've got yourself a decent unit that's going to give you brilliant durability, and then they're going to help grind and chip away against the opponent, both for shooting and for close combat. So I do rate them. I don't expect too much from them. Expecting higher damage to come from other units, mostly the Rubrics to kick out the most damage, and Magnus as well, and the rest of the army to support those 3 unit types, or 3 units. It's 2 Rubrics and then Magnus the Red. So I think that's all the points, and that gives me 1985 points. I haven't got quite enough points for any kind of enhancements, so I'll watch and see if there's points updates and so on. So enhancements would be great. For example, there's one enhancement called Umbralific Crystal. Yeah, it lets you remove a unit and then deep strike it back in or bring it back in. That's very useful on Rubric Marines, for example. We've put it on one of the Exalted Sorcerers, especially with Flamers to ambush, range 12, you can deep strike in just over 9 inches away. I think it says deep striking. Yeah, you can place them anywhere on the battlefield that's more than 9 inches away from enemy units. So very, very useful indeed. I don't think I've got quite enough points to do it, sadly, but that's one of the enhancements I would take. There's a few other enhancements that are available. I can live without them with the 1,000 Suns. The other good enough thing about this list is coal points. I can generate a fair few. Magnus will give me 4. Each Exalted Sorcerer will give me 2 each. So that takes me up to 8. Rubric Marines will be 1 each. Terminators another 1 each on top of that as well. And then Tzangors and Objectives on 4+ will give me more also. So I'm usually able to afford a decent power return with Carball points. So that's the list of the 1,000 Suns. Do check out the battle reports to see them in action. You'll see this list and how it operates. Now you know how I've described it, you can see them in action. Check out the painting tutorials. And there should be extra content as well. Top units video I've done rating the different units available for all of the Thousand Suns, different options that they have. And then, as mentioned, I'm planning a tactics video to really demonstrate that my favourite unit combinations currently for Thousand Suns. Check out gamingfigures.com, link for them in the video description below. If you're in the middle of England, Middlesbrough sort of direction, I'll leave a link for their Facebook page as well. You can visit them, great store and a great gaming area there as well at gamingfigures.com. Keep a lookout for more videos on the channel. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time.